During the governor's State of the Island address. As Governor Eddie Calvo took the podium, the first row reserved for lawmakers was empty. That's because they were a couple blocks away in legislative session.
When we got our emails that we're getting called into session at 1:30, we were all surprised. We're all puzzled. We didn't know what we were going into session for.
As we reported, Speaker Judy Wonpat called for a legislative session for 1:30 Thursday afternoon to discuss Bill 278, which was introduced at 1:32 p.m. Public hearing requirements were waived and the bill was immediately added to session agenda.
It was very unstatesmanlike for the legislature to be in session while the State of the Island was going on. It was very disrespectful, and I take to that, because the people of Guam expect all their elected officials to be there to find out what's going on with the State of the Island and how can we work together to move our island forward.
Bill 278 stops pay raises for cabinet members and all elected leaders except for mayors and vice mayors and sets them in October 1, 2013 levels. Minority Leader Senator Tony Atta questioned why there was such a rush to act on the bill. He says according to the legislature's standing rules, when you waive a public hearing, an emergency condition must exist that concerns public health and safety.
If I didn't know any better, I'd probably say this was planned to happen on this day. You look at it, today we're at Friday, we have nothing going on. The Speaker could have called us into session today instead of yesterday.
So was there an emergency? Speaker Judy Wonpat.
The definition when you say emergency, because then it's urgent. Because as we continue to spend more money, then and we're not resolving this issue, then yes, it becomes, I won't say emergency, but I would say it was definitely an urgent matter.
An urgent matter that had lawmakers in session for almost all of the governor's State of the Island address. The Speaker, however, says that was the fault of the Republicans.
We could have very well ended about maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes max into his speech because already legal counsel had the bill engrossed. But then there were always, remember the motion to speak on the main motion, and my colleagues on the other side were the ones who were primarily speaking, and the time was, of course, going later. So definitely that's not a disrespect. I have to respect instead to allow for my colleagues give them the opportunity to speak.
The Minority Leader, however, argues there were repeated motions to recess for further review of the bill and so that senators could attend the governor's address, but they were denied. The Speaker maintains that the legislation needed to be urgently addressed. Bill 278 eventually passed by a vote of 11-4, with Republicans Michael Imtiaco and Chris Duenas joining the Democrats to vote for its passage. Once session was over, Republican senators were recognized by the governor as they took their once empty seats at the Plaza de España. They were able to catch the last few minutes of his address. KUAM even spotted Democrat Senator Frank Agin Jr. and Speaker Wonpat in the crowd. As for her reaction, Wonpat says she was hoping Calvo would, quote, respect and reflect more on the spirit of cooperation between the two branches.
Because the governor would not be able to do some of these things without the support and the cooperation of the legislature, meaning that, we create these legislations and we try to be as creative as we can in terms of finding monies. We write the legislation, we pass it, we send it to him.
It's respect and cooperation, Senator Atta said he's hoping to see from his Democrat colleagues. Senator Atta said the sudden introduction of Bill 278 was yet another example of a, quote, tactic by the Democrats to have their bills rush through the legislature while Republican bills wait for a hearing.
They keep going into session on weekends, they keep going to session at night, and they keep avoiding public hearings for certain bills. Now, you got certain committee chairmen that turn around and pick and choose what bills they want to have publicly heard. Well, that's fine. But now to turn around and say, well, we just don't want to, we want to waive the public hearing for this certain bills, now that's wrong. It is wrong, and I'm offended by it that we keep going and waiving public hearings.